Here's a very rare instrument. This is a three-voice button accordion, one row, but it's called the Winner tremolo model. So it's got an extra stop here to engage and disengage a tremolo feature, and I'll explain that in a bit. Quite a large, quite a big undertaking, really, for a small one-row box. Quite old. It came in. It actually had the case had split in several of the glue joints, so I had to re-glue that and make sure that everything was airtight in the two ends of the accordion. The other thing fairly typical for these is these knobs are stripped. Either it has a steel shaft that has wood threads on both ends of it, so it's either stripped on the wooden block that's internal to the box, or the knob itself is stripped. So I had to restore those, and I think we've got pictures of the inside blocks. What else? Probably the most difficult thing, and it set me back a couple months because I wasn't sure I could fix it, but this has long plates. It has brass reeds on long plates, and I inspected it when I got the instrument, because if there was any reed broken, I basically don't normally take in an instrument, because it's very difficult to replace a single reed on a long reed plate. In most accordions, you just swap the entire small reed plate and go on your merry way, so it's easier. But in this case, I did find a very similar donor reed from a piano accordion, piano accordion, old thing with also with long plates and brass reeds. So I ground the rivet off on both reed plates, got the broken one off. I think I have a picture of the broken reed, and then had this donor reed which had the same size rivet. So the hole in the end of the reed was the same, but the reed itself was oversized. So I actually had to clamp it in a vise and hand file the reed till it fit that slot. And again, I've got a picture of that. So not a normal part of restoration for me. It was the first time I'd done it, but it did turn out okay, successful. Beyond that, I did, of course, most of the normal restoration. I pulled the reed plates off and redid all of the leather. I either restored or replaced the leather one-way valves on them. I've got pictures of that too. And I did, on some of the larger reeds, the leathers really curl more because the leather's longer. So I added helper springs on those to make sure they continue to lay flat. So what else? As far as the tuning, I first captured, I've got a picture of that, I captured what the original tuning was and put it in an Excel spreadsheet, because the goal in this case was to maintain the old tuning. Well, as you can see, it varied throughout the instrument, but I wanted to remove the variations between the reeds, but keep the average the same, if that makes sense. So it took some work to do that. It is somewhere between, all the notes were between, equal temperament and just temperament, but not a normal distribution that I've seen before. So I was able to do that. It's a three-voice, so it has two middle reeds and a low reed. So I tuned the low reed and one of the middle reeds to each other, so they're in unison without any, not that one, let's try this. Try this. There it is. So this is a high reed, I'm middle reed, and the middle reed tuned in unison. Then that third middle reed brings in tremolo. So I tuned the two middle reeds, the second middle reed a little sharp from the other two. What else? Because they're on long plates, and especially since I had to replace that one reed, I do have some fixtures I've made specifically for long plates. So I was able to tune the reeds close, coarsely tune them on those fixtures outside of the instrument, where it's much easier to work on them. I'm going to flip the whole reed plate over, and it will sound only one reed, which is tricky to do with the long plates. And once those are all tuned pretty close, then I put them all back in the instrument, re-waxed them in place, and that's when I then do the final tuning inside the half of the instrument. So the bellows are not on it, but the buttons and case are there, and it's on top of my tuning in my air table. So what else? I think that's it. On the bass side, this whole growl box was sort of loose. I've got a picture of that. Several of the screws were stripped, the wood screws. So I rebuilt those stripped holes and then put a new gasket. It had the old string type gasket. So now it's a nice new foam gasket on this side, making it pretty airtight. So the interesting thing about this is it's got this tremolo feature, and I think it's going to take, it would take a little bit of skill to be able to use it, but and of course air button on the backside. I've got a picture of what causes the tremolo. It's an internal little flapper. A weighted flapper, and I'll see if I can make it work. I'm sure it's going to take some learning for the owner to... So, sort of a cool effect, but you need good bellows control to make use of it. Anyway, so this is all set, ready to go back to its owner in Ireland. And Ellen, I hope you enjoy this. The winner, tremolo button accordion.